If you have a message that you want to share with the world, one of the most effective ways to share it in 2021 is going to be through video. And today I have my very own videographer, founder of The Good Vibe Media, Carly Gilleland, joining me to share how you can reach more people, tell compelling stories, and make the impact that you know you're meant to make through the power of video. Whether you are ready to hire a whole video team to help you, or you are on a DIY budget, which I've been there too, we're going to share our best tips for how to effectively use video in your marketing efforts this year. I am so excited to have you all tuning in today because this is a conversation, especially for those of you who have a message you want to share. We really are going to talk about the importance of video. And you probably are aware that video is what a lot of people are investing in for the new year. And I brought really my own video ninja expert, Carly with The Good Vibe Media, and we're going to talk and break down what you need to know about incorporating video into your business this year. So Carly, I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm so thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Well, before we get into all the goods, because I know just a little bit about your background and your story, but you at your core are a business owner, just like a lot of us. So take us back to, what had you take an interest in video in the first place? And then, the journey of starting your own business and some of the, like the challenges that we all know come along with that whole process. But yeah, give us a glimpse into what that process has looked like.
Totally. Because we all know it's not sunshine and rainbows all the time, right? I got really lucky because I got exposed to video production at an early age. In high school, I grew up here in Arizona, and I went to Arcadia High School, and they had a pretty stellar media communications class that exposed me to the world of video production. And I remember the very moment when I knew I was going to make this my career. One of my first assignments that my teacher gave me was to produce a 3-minute feature story on anything I wanted. And I decided to do a little story on my sister, who is special needs. And I thought that it'd be, kind of a good story to do because not everybody knows what it's like to live with a special needs sibling. And I can tell you, when I showed it to my class, the response that I got was, I don't know, it's pretty surreal. And in that moment, I recognized how this form of art really can really make an impact on people's emotions and kind of shed light on different perspectives. And I just feel like, we're all storytellers at heart, but I knew in that moment, I'm like, this is what I want to do. Like, I want to tell stories that really motivate people, inspire people, and just kind of shed light on different perspectives. Because I feel like that's what makes this world a better place. If we can put ourselves in other people's shoes and see different perspectives, it just kind of, in my perspective, that's kind of where my heart was. So yeah, that's where it all began. And then I went to school in California. I went to film school in Long Beach, California. And there I really got exposed to more of the documentary side of filmmaking. And so I invested in some camera gear, and I started doing little projects for small businesses and my communications department, and just really anybody that would let me make a video for them, I would be there to make it for them.
I love that. Right? Wow.
Yeah. So that's really how it started.
And now you have just this badass team of all female filmmakers, might we add. And we're going to talk a little bit more about why that is unique and important in a little bit. But you have this business in Phoenix. So I'm blessed to have you as part of
really an extension of my team. If you guys have seen video content that we've put out with Powerhouse Women over the last year, especially, it probably is from Carly and her team. And you really have a unique gift to tell stories, like you said. But I would love to hear, what is it that you love so much about specifically the business owner story? Because you do a lot of different video, but you have this unique gift to really bring a business to life through video.
Yeah. And here's the awesome thing too, is like, we all know that we need to be doing video now, right? Like there are so many different platforms and everything is moving towards video. It's not always comfortable to get in front of the camera and to be putting all these videos out there, but we all know it's important. And I think the best part about my job is that I'm able to connect with these business owners or these mission statements or whatever the story is behind the brand or the product, the service. Like there's always a story behind it and people want to connect with that story. So I think that that's the best part about my job, is that I'm able to really find that connection and tell that story to put it out there to the audience.
So I love that. And, you know, there definitely was a fear of getting, I think, in front of the camera, number one, of also like figuring out how in the world to convey what I wanted to convey. And I think that's the biggest value I've seen in getting to a point where I'm investing in having someone who really understands how to capture a story on video, how to tell a story through video. And like you said, like bring out the emotional reaction that you really want to invoke. So I know for a lot of like newer business owners, it feels like, gosh, okay, I'm not there yet. How do I take those first couple of steps of starting to incorporate video? If I'm going to invest, what maybe is the first video asset I should invest in for my business? And especially for those who aren't here in Phoenix and don't, have a direct connection to you, where do you even begin to find someone to help you bring that to life?
Mm-hmm. I think the biggest thing is if you're wanting to start doing this more on your own, the three components that you want to think of is obviously your camera, which thankfully all of our smartphones have a killer camera on them, so we can maximize on that. Your lighting and your audio. Your lighting is something as simple as just making sure you're in a very well lit, facing the window type setting, or getting a ring light, which I know most of us have. And then your audio is another big component. So those are like the three things that you really need to focus on first. But as far as just like getting going, I think that if you're anything like me, like I'm such a perfectionist and I want things to look and feel perfect before I put it out there. But with video, you really have to let that go. You have to know that what you're creating now, you're going to look back on a year from now and be like, wow, what a difference in the work that I'm creating. And you have to be okay with that. Yeah. Even us, like me and my team, we are evolving as creatives. We adapt new creative like styles and tricks that we incorporate in our work. And our camera gear evolves, like the technology evolves. So you just have to know and accept that like you are where you are today, and just stay consistent with trying new things and being creative and allowing that flexibility to be creative, and you're going to be just fine.
Yeah. Well, and I can attest to this. You've seen it firsthand as we've recorded course content or even just some of the promotional videos we've done. I almost never feel like it was that good in the moment. And then every time I watch it back, it's never as bad as I thought. It's so normal to feel kind of self-conscious or, gosh, did that sound right? I mean, sometimes when we were filming the course that you helped us create, Six Figure School, we would cut and I'd be like, did that make any sense at all? Because I felt like I was just rambling there. But we're all our own worst critic. So I love that. And, that's how you get over it, is you just get out there and do it.
You just have to get out there and do it. Yeah. And just like, remember, and you say this too, even in your course, it's like, you have to just remember the message that you're trying to put out there and remember who it is you're talking to. Like, yeah, forget everything else. Like, that message is the most important thing, and who you are out there to serve, who you're talking to, is the most important thing to keep in mind. So
yeah. Oh, well, I'm like, I needed to hear that today. So thank you. So as, we start to think about and open our minds to using video, I love the term storytelling. What are some of the most powerful stories a business or someone who's got like this big purpose they're trying to share? What are some of the most powerful stories that we can use video to share?
It's really the why. And let me know if I'm answering this question right. But I think the most simple answer to it is the why. Like there's a why in everything, who, what, where, when, why, but the why is like really the meat of what makes a good story.
Yeah.
And tapping into that, I mean, we as females, like we've got that emotional connection where I'm like, give me all the emotions and tell me why and dig deeper. You know what I mean? And I think that's it, works to our advantage when we're creating these stories, because like that's the connection that people grasp onto. That's what they want to hear, So I think retracing yourself back to the why is going to help you create an effective story when you are putting together your videos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you have like tips for people as they're thinking about what they might want to capture? I think back to the first project we did together was really telling our brand story and telling more of that why. And a lot of the fear, I think, of getting in front of camera is, okay, well, what do I say? Or what if I freeze? Like, what are some of your favorite tips or if you have any like behind the scenes, behind the camera secrets to help us like capture, whether it's put that stuff on paper before we go into a video shoot or, whatever it is. Cause I believe that so many women listening and men too, you have a story that you may not realize the world is really waiting for you to share. And that showing that side of your business could really absolutely help people connect with it more. But sometimes when it's our own story, like we don't think it's that fascinating. I'm guilty of this all the time. Like, who cares? I've shared this before. What are some of like the best tips you would give to help us like share just that initial story and the why behind our business?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, when you break it down, and how we kind of operate in working with our brands and our different clients, we take them through 3 different phases. It's pre-production, production, and post-production. So in our pre-production phase, that's really where we get to dump all of our ideas and just bounce stories off of each other, get to know each other more, find out the why, and kind of develop that story. Some tips, let's see, a few tips that I could share. I don't know, Lens.
I know I'm like, just, help me, help all of us because this really can seem so intimidating in the beginning, but
yeah, but I think it really depends on, whatever the product, service, or whatever message you're trying to get out there. I think writing things down and then just brainstorming ideas and bouncing it off of someone will help. I mean, it's just like a brainstorming sesh, And then from there, once you get all like your brainstorming ideas down on paper, then you can think about, okay, what is this going to translate like in video? How do we, is an interview setting? Is this, more of like a studio shoot? Is it more of a natural, lit outdoor setting? And you can think about all those other elements that are going to support, the message that you're communicating.
yeah. And that was something, thinking back to that first video project we did, I think one of the things that helped me feel more I should say less nervous, it was interview style. So there was someone kind of sitting to the side of the camera asking questions. So I felt like I was just having a conversation and then you were catching it on film. So something to think about if okay, I know I really want to capture the story of my brand on video, something to think about, even if you bring a friend along and have that person ask you questions, maybe you write the questions in advance so you even know what they are. I feel like that's such a great way to get started because otherwise, like trying to think of, or, we've done some that are more scripted, and, that's a special talent. It's not everyone's, zone of genius, that's for sure. But that interview style really, I think, and we did videos for our mastermind too. I know a lot of them loved that format because it feels more like a conversation than like you're performing.
Totally. Yeah. And I can tell you, even if in the back of your mind, you think that, oh, I should write this out and script it out because it'll be easier. I promise you, like 90% of the time, it's not.
Yeah.
When you script out what you're going to say, yeah, you can go that route, but it translates differently on camera. And I think that we get so hung up, and I'm really just speaking, like if I write something out and I script it, I get so hung up on like saying the exact word for word, and I lose touch of like what I'm trying to say from the heart.
Yeah.
So I would definitely encourage, like, maybe instead of scripting it out, you write down bullet points and then maybe some questions, like interview questions that might be a good lead in to what your answer would be.
Yeah. And you're right. It really is that emotional connection that can be so powerful in video. It's not getting all the words right. It's the
Totally.
emotion that people are ultimately going to connect with. That's such a good reminder. So, okay, this like the world got turned upside down over the last year. Everything is going digital, online. I mean, why is this the time to invest in video for your brand? Whether you're doing it yourself or low budget to begin with, like why is it essential for businesses to be thinking about video?
Yeah, I read an article, I think it was a couple months ago, but it said how, like, I think it said YouTube was the second most popular website in the world
Whoa.
behind Google. And YouTube is a video platform, and it just goes to show that video is everything right now. Everybody, I mean, there are a million, statistics that you can read that show that more people are leaning on video more than reading words themselves. And there's also so many different platforms that you can maximize video on now, with social media, even your website. There's no doubt that I think the conversion rate on websites that have a video landing page is like incredibly higher than a website that doesn't have one. So there are just so many different ways that you can use your videos that really make a big, big difference in your marketing.
Yeah. And I think we keep going back to this, but being able to tell your brand story in a video, I didn't realize also how much time that would save me. Meaning, even when we are reaching out for potential brand sponsorships for events or even podcast guests, maybe bigger podcast guests that we really would love to have on the show, being able to send a link to that video and say, hey, here's a little video to help you get to know what we're about. I have gotten such a return on that investment. I don't even think I could quantify, because again, it's that emotional connection. And I think right now, especially with the world still being, I think, a little less connected than we all would like to be, being able to make an emotional connection, even if you're not face to face with people, is really so valuable.
100%. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's the one way that we can stay connected right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to that point too, like we are going to see a lot more. There's more that's being put out there. So it makes it even more of an importance to make sure that your messaging is on point and that you're super clear with what you're saying too. And you have fun being creative with it, because that's what sparks the interest of everybody watching. So
yeah. So for someone who does not live in Phoenix, of course, you are not opposed to travel. But for someone who's, starting out, or they're wondering even, okay, where do I go about finding a videographer in my area? What would be your advice if people don't have a relationship, don't know of anyone? Where would you start?
First things first, I would just start asking within your network, because we're starting to see a lot of creatives kind of blossom. And especially now during the pandemic, I think people are getting creative with other ways that they can find more work. And I just know within my network, I'm starting to see a handful of, people that are picking up a camera and starting to get more creative when that really wasn't even their background. So first things first, start asking around within your network, because I feel like it's very important that you find a videographer. If you do want to hire someone, you find someone that you really jive with very well. And you and I have talked about this before too, Lindsay. It's like you have to have that connection with the person that's behind the camera, because it's going to make your videos much better. It's going to help.
So true.
It's going to help. It's going to help big time. And it's going to translate, So I think that would be my first suggestion. And then from there, you can go on websites like Fiverr.com, where you can find freelance creatives that can in your area that can help you. That would probably be the second route I would go.
Yeah. And Fiverr is spelt with 2 R's, I think. Mm-hmm. I haven't gone that route myself, but it's basically a website that you can find freelancers. And that's such a great suggestion. Yeah. So I know that, the other thing that you are really passionate about is inspiring more women in filmmaking. So talk to me about why. And then I'm going to have you share just some of the things that you're creating under that intention.
Yeah, for sure. I am crazy passionate about this, because I can't even tell you, like, I look back to film school when I went to film school in Long Beach, and it was like me and 2 other girls and then a room full of guys, which was fine, it's fine. But I just remember thinking like, why is this the case? Like, why are there not, many more females in film school? And then moving, graduating from college and starting out my business in this industry, I recognize the same thing. Like, there's a ton of female photographers, but there's not a lot of female videographers. And I kind of saw this a little bit as an advantage, because I'm like, hold on a second, like, this perspective of a female behind the lens is important. And I know that I know I'm going to be fine. This is going to, I'm going to be just fine in this industry. Like, I'm going to make it, but it was something that I observed. And I definitely thought that it's very, very important to me that I create a space that I wish I had in film school, or getting out of film school, or starting my business. Of other like-minded females in this industry, because it just didn't really exist when I was starting out, or maybe it did and I just wasn't aware of it,
Yeah. And until you started to share your experience, I had no idea, although I cannot really name another female videographer that I know off the top of my head. So talk a little bit about what that inspired you to create, and we're going to get into that a little bit more.
Yeah, so we have created the Females Who Film eCourse masterclass, where it's essentially everything that I've learned through film school and 10 years of experience in building my own video production company, kind of all packaged up and sealed with a bow for other creatives that are wanting to get into this industry. And what we have decided to do is create 2 different packages for this course. One is called The Dabble. This is just for beginners who are like really wanting to just kind of dive into the, where to start for video production. And then we have the Full Send. That is basically everything you need to know, film school, and beyond, from pre-production, production, and post-production. I'm really excited too, because I've brought in 3 other female filmmakers to be educators within the course. They all have different backgrounds, different experience, and we all shoot on different cameras. So there's a lot of variety and diversity within the course, which I think a lot of our students are going to find a lot of value in.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like I've gotten a behind the scenes view as you've been creating this. And then we've gotten to have some cool conversations as you are a part of our 2021 mastermind. But you shared something that it hadn't occurred to me. And I think this is really important for people to hear too, because maybe you don't necessarily want to start a career, a whole production company and film company yourself, but you might be working for a company that if you had the skills to do some light videography, it would make you stand out so far above the rest. Like I think about right now, we're filling a new position within the Powerhouse Women team. And if someone came to me and said, I've invested in myself and I know that I'm good enough to be dangerous with, editing video and stuff. So talk a little bit about that and who this is for beyond people who want to have their own video production company.
Yeah, you think about like real estate agents or bloggers or anyone that's wanting to start their YouTube channel, or literally any industry you can think of, like you need to use video in some way, shape, or form. So that's why we've created this, the Dabble course for those that are really just don't even know like where to start. We give a breakdown and pros and cons between starter camera kits and accessories that you might want to use. We talk about editing softwares and how to get going on editing and just the basics to get you, started. So yeah, it's a really, really good place to just have that like accountability of like, okay, this is where I need to go. This is what I need to do. I'm going to, work through these steps here and get through this course. So that way I have a good foundation of how to start doing more video.
Yeah. And especially if you're going to DIY it a little bit in the beginning, which no shame in that game. I definitely did that in the beginning too, with so many different things. It's such a great value. So we'll link everything in the show notes so people can find it. But what I love about you most is you share the same heart of really keeping it real and giving people a glimpse of, sometimes the not so pretty parts of building a business. And like you said, it's been a 10-year journey for you. What have been some of the biggest challenges you've overcome? And then what's challenging you now?
Mm-hmm. I think the biggest challenge for me throughout this journey of building this business, and I think it continues to be a little challenge, but I'm getting better at it, is learning when to say no and when to say yes.
Yeah.
And I think that like my personality, I'm totally like a yes personality. I want to be open to all options and open to sharing everybody's story and helping everybody with video. But what I've learned over the last few years is that there's not always a time and space for me to do that. And in order to be fully present for those that I'm like super invested in, I have to learn how to say no and to set boundaries, in certain areas. So I think that has been the biggest challenge for me.
I can totally relate to that on such a personal level. Continue.
For sure. And then I think the second challenge, which honestly has been like the most rewarding breakthrough of my life, was that moment when I had so much work on my plate that I was able to open up the doors to build a team. I like worked as a one woman show for so long, which I think definitely I needed to do. Like I needed to be the one woman show in order to show up to be the best business owner that I can, to know all aspects of my business. But the moment I was able to open up and allow other creatives to come in and to work more as a team, like holy cow, so many more opportunities came.
Yeah.
And I got to see their perspectives and their creativity, and we got to collaborate, and that was something pretty magical. So I think that was a challenge for me because I'm such like a control, like it's hard for me to let go and to delegate, and I feel like I have to do everything myself. But the moment I was able to let go of that, holy cow, it was pretty awesome.
It's such a good reminder. I talk about it all the time. I need to be reminded all the time just that, like we say, we're not meant to do this alone. And especially if your vision is growing to the point where you can no longer be and do all the things, there's just such a blessing that comes along with bringing others into your vision. And your team really is the best. I'm very biased.
Oh my gosh. They really are rock stars. And that's what I hope this, developing this course and developing this community of other female filmmakers is that we'll have a space and a platform for all of us to connect and collaborate. And I'm just excited. Like, I'm excited to see who I meet in the future, and what kind of connection and collaboration can be had. So
I love that so much. So where is the best place for people to connect in if they are all about this? They're like, heck yes, I want to be a part of this amazing community. I mean, maybe if they wanted to like listen to a podcast, I don't know, maybe there's something else to share.
Yes. Femaleswhofilm.com is where everything will lie. So you'll find our podcast, our course, our community. Everything is on femaleswhofilm.com. And then if you want to check out our business page, it's thegoodvibemedia.com. That's where you can see all of our work and
probably a little bit of Powerhouse Women sprinkled in there because I feel like this last year, you really and truly helped us. I always say you helped me get to see my brand in a whole new light. And I think that's the other gift that video really can provide is you get to see the impact of your vision. And I'm just so grateful to you for that.
Oh my gosh, Lindsay, I'm so grateful for all the work that we've been able to do together. You've opened up my eyes big time. So thank you for that.
Well, so much more to come for sure. But before we wrap up, last year, I loved asking this question to our podcast guests, and I feel like I just got so much value from it that until I have a different question, we're just going to keep going with this one to end the podcast because I think we still need the reminder, especially as women, I think, to stop and acknowledge the places in our lives where we are great and where, whether it's a big or small victory, we show up as the powerhouse that we really are. So we just call it your powerhouse moment. And it can be anything big or small, but what's one that you have had recently?
Oh man. Why am I like getting emotional right now? So my powerhouse moment is when my daughter recently told me she wants to be a videographer just like me.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm like, now we're both crying. It's fine.
That was definitely a moment where I'm like, oh my gosh, because, and I'll try not to go off on a tangent, but like when you're a working mom and especially a single working mom, like I have this like battle inside of me often, where I'm like, oh my gosh, is this going to create some sort of resentment or something in the future with my daughter? But then I have these moments like this where I'm like, you know what? I know that I'm doing the best that I can, and she's recognizing that. And how amazing and grateful am I that I'm able to live my passion and show her an example that she can do that too, Sorry, Lindsay.
No. Oh my gosh. Oh, well, my intention is never to make people cry. And that was something at least one woman listening needed to hear. And such a great reminder for all of us. I feel that on such a deep soul level, and you really are raising quite the little powerhouse. So we cannot wait to see what she creates in the world if she's following in your footsteps.
Oh gosh, whether it's becoming a filmmaker or not, she's going to do good things.
Well, you just are such a light in my life. Thank you for bringing your light to the podcast. And we'll make sure to include all the links where people can find you because they definitely need you in their life. They don't even know it yet, but maybe now they do.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. Honestly, it's such an honor, and I'm so grateful for you.